morning, welcome. It's Monday night. My name's Phil. We are live 7:30 till 8, just like we are next Monday and every week going forward, apart from the 19th of August, obviously, when we'll all be down at the King Power Stadium. Yeah, just 2 weeks to go. What's that, 13 sleeps, or is it 14 sleeps? Somebody do the maths for me. Let me know what you want to talk about tonight. As ever, we've got a vague plan. We think we want to talk about transfers. Do we need strikers? Do we need creative midfielders? What do we know? I checked the internet just 30 seconds before we go live, and we're being linked with more players. Yeah, we're being linked now with Arthur Mello. What do you reckon to him? There's loads of news, views, and comments. Simon's going to be joining me, but I want to know what you think to the current state of play at Leicester City. So join us for the next half hour in the Monday Night Fan Zone Show.
The Leicester City machine is on the march again.
Leicester Fan TV presents a variety of content like fan discussions, match analysis, and engaging with Leicester fans worldwide. We want your views live, thanks to our sponsors, Everard's, Pucker Pies, Hologram, Take Me, Newbie & Co, and the Fox's Arms. For exclusive extra shows, behind the scenes, competitions and podcasts, subscribe to Leicester Fan TV today on Patreon.
Yes, good evening. Don't forget you can follow us at Leicester Fan TV on whatever channel it is you want to subscribe to us, maybe on Patreon. We've launched that today. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But let's carry on. Good evening. Matthew, how are you? Where are you, Matty, in the world? Let me know where you are. Happy Monday. That's what I was reading. Bubbers, happy Monday. Good old Bubbers, always happy. Craig says, we need a forward badly, as we're not scoring goals yet. That is what we're going to be talking about. Phil Upton says, preferably an under-21 star that could help with cost and not need registering. That would be useful. Yeah, there is all these little rules, aren't they? Are they homegrown? Are they under 21? Whatever, to slip in there, and then you don't need to have them in the squad. Andy, good evening, says, from what I've seen so far, we need a bloody miracle to step. Now, listen, pre-season, let's always put this back into context. The season we amazingly won the Premier League in 2015-2016. We didn't win any pre-season games. We didn't have a good pre-season at all, and we went on to win the league. So we can use that as a bit of something to give us some solace. But I know what you mean, Andy. That you are starting, and I'm not even having a go at Steve Cooper here. You just look at the club and going, ooh, we do need to strengthen a little bit, don't we? Andy, good evening. Hope you're well. Terry, hope you're well. Chaps to 37. How's things going? Dave Platt says, how much was Tom Cannon? I think he was about 8 million, Tom Cannon was, to be honest with you, Dave. There's no point buying someone for less than him. Lots and lots of rumours that Tom Cannon is going to go out on loan. We are waiting to loan him out for either Jamie Vardy to get fit or buy another striker. And then you've got Sheffield United, West Brom, and I think there was a third Championship club. I'm not sure if it was Norwich. Very, very keen to take him on loan. But why did we pay 8 million for him last summer, knowing he was injured? And he's just not got into that team, has he? Chris, good evening. Hope you're well. Tom, hope you're well as well. S. Blackie on X says, teams that get relegated struggle to score goals. Aim is to stay up, and we need a goal scorer. We do. Listen, we all know Vardy's at the very, very end of his career, and he's not going to be fit all season. He's not fit now. I don't think he's going to be back for the Spurs game. And then we've got Dak and we've got Tom Cannon. We've lost Nacho. Nick Moore says, good evening. Ruff says, did you see the Fabrizio Romano tweet about Leicester entertaining the race? There is loads of tweets out there. There's loads of rumours out there, and Fabrizio gets it right a lot of the time, but he doesn't always get it right. So you never know what you can read on there. You've got to take it with a little bit of a pinch of salt. Chris saying Asprilla from Watford now going elsewhere for 25 million. I know Reedy did a video yesterday, prepared a lovely video with a Watford fan all about Asprilla, and by the time he'd got it edited and ready to go out, it was already off. So yeah, Chris, looks like that one is off. Gary Wright says, good evening. After the 2 games, I think we are short up front. Daka has not got it for me. Needs someone who can score. Do you agree with Gary there? Again, I've been dead honest about Daka for 2 years now on these videos and said I don't think he's good enough. I'm still prepared to give him more shots at the cherry, whatever you want to say, because he's probably our main striker. Patson Daka is our main striker. Comment your views to that. Andy says, what does Cannon need to do to get some game time, as Daka can't hit a barn door from 10 yards? I don't know, Andy. Is Steve Cooper putting Daka in the shop window, trying to move him on, Andy? Maybe that's what he's doing. But Tom Cannon, what did he get on Saturday? 20 minutes at the end? Chris says, why don't we sign the real Patson Daka? The team who won that we bought last time. I quite like that in there. I'm going to add Simon in. Simon's joined us. Good evening, Simon. How are you?
Phil. I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. Simon, listen, it's pre-season. I've said already, the year we won the league, we won nothing in pre-season. We didn't look that good. I'm beginning to feel a little bit twitchy. How about you?
Yeah, I think as a lot of those comments alluded to at the minute, I don't think we look terribly woeful at the back. I think we look fairly solid. There's lots of options in defensive positions. It's when we get the other in that front forward half of the pitch that things seem to be coming unstuck for us at the minute. And I'd agree, we desperately need some new talent in ASAP.
The show title we've put in today, and I'll put it back on screen, is do we need a new striker? And that's the big question of tonight's show, Simon. Do we need a striker? It's pretty bloody obvious, isn't it, that we go into the season with three strikers. One's a 38, 39-year-old who's not going to be fit all season, isn't fit now. One's Patson Daka, who just can't seem to hit that form. And then we have the Tom Cannon situation. Talk us through, Simon, your take on those three.
Well, if Jamie Vardy could keep himself fit and play 30+ games this season, you'd want him in your starting lineup all day long. But I think we all know that his body won't let him do that anymore. He's got to manage himself, try and keep himself as fit as he can, and play as many games as he can. But if he plays half the games, we'll be lucky. So, as you alluded to, we're into Daka or Cannon, and I think Daka has had more than enough chances. Played at a lower level for the club last season. Didn't set the world on fire. He's had a couple of games where he's looked over his Leicester career like he might be the player that we thought we bought, but apart from that, he's looked lacking. Cannon, more of an untried entity, really. He's been in and out of the team. Maresca clearly didn't fancy him, didn't play him that often. Now we need him to step up, but I'm not sure he's going to be the man to get us 15, 20 goals this season. And with the way it's going, we're going to need someone who's going to take every scrap of a chance they can get.
Andy says here, we're not going to attract a top striker, especially with the points deduction and the possibility of going down. I do understand when people say these things, Simon, because we do go into the season as one of the three favourites to go down regardless of a points deduction, being the newly promoted side that we are. We did lose a few players at the end of last season, and we do have the points deduction. It can't be easy to attract players to Leicester. And we all know that the striker within the side, the person who puts the ball into the net, is incredibly hard to find somebody who can do that.
And it's the most difficult, most expensive position on the pitch to fill. Historically, of course, we've, especially in recent years, we've done very well at plundering the kind of European lower leagues and coming up with gems or players that maybe, us as kind of football fans hadn't really heard of. I'm sure the scouting fraternity would have, but we hadn't. We put our money where our mouth is, and we got extremely fortunate with some of those signings. It almost feels like we need a similar situation now, where someone's going to come up with a bit of a diamond in the rough that's going to bail our season out up front.
Christian says we are linked to Carvalho, who can definitely fix our creative problems. We'll come on to that creative player in a minute in there. Nick says, what's happened to the Weghorst links? No brainer, cheap, and a different type of striker to what we have. I understand what Nick's saying there, Simon. He's meant to be 1.5 million. I think he's still at Burnley. He does offer you something a little bit different, maybe.
And maybe that's where we've got to set our sights on a few kind of deals like that, which aren't massive glamour deals. It's not some £30 million player coming into the club, but it's someone who can get in the squad, who's willing to bend their back, do a job, and the odd goal here and there might be the difference between us staying up and going down. So yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, Chapster says any player should want to come in and prove themselves at this level and earn a move away even before we go down. Yesterday, Simon, we were linked very heavily with Asprilla from Watford. In fact, it looked like that was it was being reported. Again, people say, oh, Fabrizio said this. I believe it was quite heavily reported that Asprilla was going to come. But as I say, Reedy made a video, and before we even publish it, he's pretty much gone elsewhere.
Yeah, to France, I think. Is it Rennes or something that he apparently is going to now? Then there's pictures of Asprilla's agent in England today, and I mean, who knows? There's so many. I don't think I can remember a season where we've been linked with so many deals. I'm not sure whether that is just agents trying to talk up their players to get the best value for them, or whether we genuinely are out there, really trying to get some traction and going after numerous players. Who knows?
Dave says here, Simon, the points deduction is putting players off, I think. Do you think agents and footballers would be looking at Leicester's situation and just going, if anybody else in either the Premier League was to come in for me, or anybody in a reasonable position within one of the European leagues, then Leicester is always going to be second or third pick?
Yeah, unfortunately, probably yes this season. And I think even some of the clubs around us in the Premier League that normally would be a more attractive option than a more attractive than us this season, the likes of Brighton and Bournemouth and some of these clubs, that Wolves, etc., that are quite historically in more recent seasons, Leicester would have been a more attractive option. I think we're probably below the pecking order in them as well this year.
Yeah, Scott says there we should be taking a lead out of O'Neill's book, change Suter into a striker. Scott, I'm with you, but we're living back in 1996 when we used to do it with Walshy and that. Nick says here, do you remember when we used to scour the European market? This is just what Simon was saying. For good value for money, we seem to be going for overpriced players, many of which are already playing in England in there. Simon, just coming back to Tom Cannon. We signed him last summer, and he was injured. He got quite a big back injury in his spine, and it's took him a long time to get in. Again, I do question the club over the last 2 or 3, 4 years of transfers in and out. Why did we sign Cannon if we're not going to give him a chance at playing while we were in the Championship? And then even in pre-season now, Vardy's out, Cannon still doesn't get really any decent game time. Why?
I mean, you can only assume it's what the managers are seeing in training and what they're seeing on the pitch and what they then fancy to put on the pitch for an actual competitive game. I mean, I thought Cannon showed some good qualities last season in the opportunities he got. He didn't play necessarily up front all of the time. He played a bit deeper. He played wide, but he always did his job. But you've got to ask yourself, and this is what Steve Cooper keeps telling the players, from what the players are saying, we've got to condition ourselves for a higher level now. Is Tom Cannon a Premier League striker? Why did Everton let him go last season? We're not on the training pitch, we don't know, but it's clear if two managers aren't seeing it, then I guess there's some ingredient missing there, Phil.
Nick Ball says here, and I think he probably is right. The problem is the manager does not buy the players and is told from above who they can and can't have. Gary says, I think Cannon was a panic buy last summer. Could have been in there. Somebody put in here, Michael says, we shouldn't have given Iheanacho away. Again, we bought Iheanacho for 25 million, Simon, and he's gone off to Seville for free.
And the more I think about that, I mean, okay, maybe Iheanacho didn't want to stay, and you can't make a player stay who's out of contract.
We did offer him a contract, reportedly.
Yeah, but he was a free signing, and whilst I know he's been a bit hit and miss at times for the club, of the 4 strikers that are at the club, obviously Vardy aside, if he could keep fit, which we all know he can't for the whole season, then for me Nacho was the obvious one that we should have desperately tried to keep for this season. And I think it's a blow now that we're chasing our tails, trying to find someone to fill that berth.
We're going to talk next, Simon, I'm sure, and everybody watching, we'll have a chat about a Keane and Dewsbury Hall replacement. There is for 2 weeks now, we kick off in 15 minutes against Tottenham Hotspur at home. And I know we have a history with them, a recent history, and we'll have a niggle and it'll be good fun and all that. But they will be strong when they come to us. They're a solid top 6 club, and didn't do bad last season. Again, they'll be looking at Leicester surely and be fancying a relatively steady opening game. Something's got to happen, hasn't it, before then, for Leicester?
It feels like something needs to shift, and it needs to shift quickly because we're running out of time. Anyone we bring in now has got limited time to bed in, get used to the other playing staff, the coaches. We need to make moves now, and I'm sure the club are trying, but it appears that the places that they're trying, they're hitting the buffers. And yeah, if I was Steve Cooper at the minute, I'd be a nervous man taking that team out onto the pitch against Spurs with what he's got at the minute.
The day the season ended last year, May the whatever it was, Simon, we knew Nacho contract was up, so we knew we got 3 strikers. So we're here on August the 5th. The striker situation is, we knew of it before the end of the season last year, didn't we? So I just assume, you work in business, Simon, I work in business. You have to look at what you're doing now, but you have to look at like what is coming up. And if you've got a feeling that a member of staff is going, sometimes you don't get that warning. But with Nacho, we literally knew his contract's up on June the 1st or whatever, he'll be off. So surely we were looking around and getting, ducks in a row. And yet, like you say, 14 sleeps to go, and we haven't sorted it.
I mean, I think we probably all knew that Nacho was off Christmas time. I think it became apparent he wasn't going to sign a deal. They've had a long time, and let's not forget that Vardy's no spring chicken either now, bless him. And, whilst he's an absolute legend for the club, he's not going to be that talisman anymore. So we need a focal point up front. And it is glaringly obvious to anyone who's watched the pre-seasons that is one of the main missing ingredients. And yeah, I absolutely agree. The club should have been doing something about this months ago.
Well, George says there, striker problem should be more of a priority than a 5th centre-back. Again, if I was to list the centre-backs, we've got Suter, Fies, Cody, Oki. Who's the 5th one?
Ben Nelson, Phil.
Yeah, I guess you need 3. So, I don't know. We seem to have a lot of wingers, a lot of fullbacks, a lot of centre-backs, and a bit light in the strike force, Simon. But then let's move on to Kiernan Dewsbury Hall. Obviously leaves us, and he did pretty good at filling in for the Maddison role. And again, it was his choice to go, so you can't blame the club for that. And they would have wanted to sell him, but it was possibly, again, we've been talking on videos that if we get promoted, this is back in February, March, if we get promoted, Kiernan Dewsbury Hall's probably going to have to be sold to fill the FFP gap. So again, it wasn't that much of a shock, was it, when it happened?
No, I mean, it's a bitter blow personally. I don't know about you, Phil, how you feel about it, but it's a real. He's such a talisman for our team. He's a local lad, came through the youth ranks, absolute dynamo driving force in the midfield. And we just, you just alluded to how many defenders and fullbacks we've got. We've got a plethora of defensive midfielders as well in the club. But if we've got anyone in there that can generate, turn the game from defence to attack, drive the game forward, put that 30 yards, defence splitting ball through for a striker. And that, that's something else that's worth mentioning in all of this conversation, is that the striker, it certainly in the pre-season game so far, has largely been feeding off of scraps. There's not been masses of top quality supply or balls to run onto through the middle. So yeah, I mean, if we need a striker, we also need an attack-minded central midfielder as well, in my opinion, Phil.
George says he thinks Cordova-Reid could fill the Kiernan Dewsbury hole. We've obviously had Reid's had some game time there, as has Mavididi. Simon, again, I'm not really feeling either of those are probably the solution, but could it be Bobby Reid who takes that role? I
think the Cordova-Reid has always, or certainly in his Fulham career, been a squad player. He's not been a first on the team sheet starter. He's filled both wide flanks and the centre. He's not a bad player, and he's a useful utility midfielder to have in the squad. But he's not going to be our number 10 talisman this season. I don't think that's likely. I'd give Will Alves more of a chance, Phil. If I'm honest, I think if you're looking at throwing someone a chance, then that lad's full of talent, and whilst he's young and raw, why not? If we're going to go into this season short in these sorts of positions, why I mean, what's your thoughts on Will Alves? Have you seen much of him?
Well, obviously, until he had his big injury, didn't he? And he was much fancied. I think again he's a little bit older than you probably think he is. I think we still think he's like 17 or 18. I think he's in his early 20s now. So I know that Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall was a bit of a late developer as such. He was in his mid-20s by the time he actually went off to Luton and came back to Leicester and started to perform. So I think he's got good prospects, but I think you see, the Premier League's such a step up, and it was a shame some of these youngsters, Alves and Braybrook and that, didn't get a little bit more. I mean, we saw snippets of McAteer last season, and again, you think you need maybe one of them to suddenly burst onto the scene this season, and that might get us out of situation. Ian says here, Simon, about David Fofana loan rumour from Chelsea. It's the rumour is it's a loan with an agreement to buy at the end if things are successful. It's one of those, a little bit like we had with Fatawa. I've watched his highlights on YouTube, which is always dangerous. It was about a 5-minute show reel at lunch, and he did some okay stuff. But the highlights also just included a little bit of a tackle or a little bit of a jink around somebody's thing. And I was like, I mean, he's a young lad. Scored a couple of screamers for Burnley, but also, I don't know if you've seen much of him at all, Simon, or any views on him.
Like you, I've watched odd bits and bobs. Another kind of fringe, untried player. I don't know, Phil. There's so many now being linked with us at the minute. It's like almost every morning you get up and you have a look at your phone and there's another player that's coming to Leicester. Who knows? Yeah. But I mean, are we going to pin our season on David Fofana on loan from Chelsea in terms of a bit of attacking intent? I'm not sure we are.
Yeah, well, I'm reading on Everton FC fanzine tonight that Leicester and Everton are both rumoured to be interested in Arthur Mellows, a 27-year-old who's got some reasonable experience, even played internationally for 20-odd games for his country. But again, I come back to what we said earlier, Simon. If Everton and Leicester are interested, he would probably end up going for a club like Everton, Simon.
Yeah, I mean, if we get in a foot race with anyone of that sort of ilk at the minute, I think we're going to struggle unless the terms are so much more advantageous to come to Leicester than the opposition club in that situation. And I think we all know at the minute our purse strings are being pulled fairly tight. We've got to be careful what we spend. I mean, the Arthur Mello thing, obviously, I literally just spoke to you about it before we came on. I hadn't even seen that one this evening, but from memory, he's a defensive midfielder. I think he's more of a tackling defensive midfielder. Is that what we need at the minute? Have we not got that already?
I would say we've got enough of that. Yeah, absolutely. Like we say,
I'm not sure what the strategy is there if we're bringing in another defensive midfielder.
Yeah, John Tower says, I think we're struggling to get quality in. The players we are linked with aren't providing me with much confidence in there, John says. In a way, I'd rather have some unknown come in from maybe the champion. Somebody mentioned Whittaker from Plymouth. I assume he's still at Plymouth. In fact, John says there's Modix, O'Hare, Weghorst. They're all available. Who do we go for? Ayew, it's ridiculous. I don't think we've gone for there. I think O'Hare's gone to Sheffield United. I was told, Simon.
That's a done deal for that.
Yeah, one. I hear that O'Hare did have talks with Leicester, and I hear as well he failed a medical at Leicester. I believe we got obviously high standards of medical, and he not all players pass them, but I believe Sheffield United are prepared to take a punt on him. This is what I'm told. Whether it's true, who knows? Nick says Smodix is £30 million, way too expensive for a one-season wonder. I quite like that Whittaker at Plymouth last year, Simon. I think he ended up about top goal scorer in the league. Scored 2 against us I think he got 2 against us when we had that woeful performance down at home stadium down there in Plymouth. What's your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously done the business for them last season, untried at Premier League level. But I think we have to accept that anyone who comes in at the minute, it's not going to be an experienced and capable Premier League player. We have to find, like I say, a bit of a diamond from somewhere else. And yeah, I'd be open to that. I mean, the other thing that's worth throwing in here for me is that when you're in this situation and we're clearly, trying and we're showing interest in quite a few players, has the manager got any contacts? Can he pull any strings? Has he got any clubs he can go to? And any, does he know of any kind of players that he feels like might be able to fill that berth? I don't know. I'm not criticising Steve Cooper. I'm just saying that in a situation like this, you kind of hope the manager stepped up and pulled a few strings for you.
I think that's a good shout, Simon, because I must admit, when we were announcing Steve Cooper and there was quite a lot of negativity because of the Graham Potter links, I was saying, look, this guy's good with young talent. A lot of Premier League managers and high managers trust him to develop people. So I was expecting him to bring in some talent on loan. And I'm a little bit disappointed that it doesn't feel like, as yet, Cooper has brought anybody particularly much in that he's had his eye on. I don't think Reed is particularly that sort of player because he's 31, something like that. So maybe is it Golding from Chelsea we got in on loan? Maybe that's part of the Steve Cooper effect, Simon.
Maybe, but I think we all know even that the manager's been asked about it enough after these pre-season games that have happened lately. He's alluding to we need some attacking talent into the squad. It just feels like someone needs to pull a bit of a stroke or a string here and get us something that can help us out, because at the minute, like you said, when we go into the Spurs game, if we've only got the players we've got at the minute, we're going to struggle.
Yeah, Chris says we got the go. Obviously, Jamie Vardy from non-league in there. I just mentioned Whittaker from Plymouth, and Phil says here Rooney won't let him go. I can multitask, Simon, and I googled Whittaker just to make sure he was still at Plymouth. Apparently, Rangers want to buy him for 10 million quid, and Rooney's come out and is saying no, I don't want to let him go. I see him as part of a Plymouth that could maybe kick on from last season's relegation escape. But listen, money and bigger clubs talk, and if it's one thing we are bigger than Plymouth. And I know Rangers are a decent side, but £10 million for a player who was, I think, the top striker in the Championship last season, for me, is exactly the sort of player we should be going for, Simon, if you ask me.
Yeah, I agree. And that's realistic at the minute in the situation we're in. I think, we could pull that off. The player would want to prove himself in the Premier League. Even if he was in a team that was struggling at the wrong end of the league, it gives him a chance to prove that he's of that standard. So he'd probably have the motive to come. So a deal like that makes sense. And it makes sense all round if we could make it happen.
These are the sorts of deals we don't seem to be in link with, though. It seems to be some quite random players coming out from different places. Jono says, can we send Daka out on loan? Again, Simon, I don't know if you agree with my view on Daka, is nobody will touch Daka with a barge pole for two reasons. One, his wages are astronomical. The second is he just hasn't got much of a record over the past 3 years.
He's not put himself in the shop window for Leslie at all, but since he's been at Leicester, he's on from, if you believe what people say, £75,000 a week. So it's a big salary. I'd imagine if he went on loan, we'd have to pay some of that ourselves in order to get him out, which the club won't want to do because, if we're going to do that, we might as well keep him and have him in our own squad. So I just can't see it. We've given him a contract that kind of buys him out of the market. And Soumare, in some ways, the same, although I know he's been linked tonight. Links
today of Soumare going to Roma, Simon. I mentioned that to you seconds before we went live. Just reiterate, what was your talk of Soumare going to Roma?
I'd take the money and run, Phil. I mean, he apparently had a half decent season in Spain last season. I'll be honest, I didn't take the time to watch him while he was over there. However, I've seen him play enough for Leicester, like you. I've seen him in pre-season and all the games. He looks very much the Soumare that I saw before in this pre-season. For me, he's whether the club just doesn't suit him or I don't know, but he needs moving on.
I don't know if it's the pace of it all. And I there's a bit of me as well, Simon, thinks Soumare didn't, for whatever reason, maybe he didn't want to, maybe the club wanted him out, but he didn't stick around and help us come back in up from the Championship. So I'm a bit like, so you were part of the squad that got us relegated. Then you didn't want to come to Rotherham away and Plymouth and all those games. But now we're back in the Premier League. You want to be part of it. And I find that a bit of a bitter pill to try and swallow with Soumare, especially when, again, like you said, I don't particularly rate him, Simon.
Well, I mean, you say he wants to be part of it, Phil. I've not seen that on the pitch in the pre-season so far. He's looked as pedestrian as he as he did when he in the season we went down. He doesn't, whether it's just his style, the way he plays, I don't know, but he just doesn't look like he's putting a shift in.
Yeah, Andy says he'll fit in at Roma's. That is all he does, is roam around the pitch. 10 million would do for Soumare. I mean, I think we've paid 15, 16, 17 million for Soumare. Or did we pay more? God, I'm trying to remember what we paid for Soumare. But what would you take for him to get rid of him?
I mean, just to get the wages off the books, it's another 70 grand a week salary. You just get it out. You know, even if it's 5 million, just move it on, because it's soaking up opportunity for other players that we could get in.
Would it not leave us short, though? I mean, I say short. We've got quite a big squad somehow.
I mean, defensive midfielder wise, we got Ndidi, we got Winks, are both probably pretty much guaranteed to start. We're not short of players that can play that position. I mean, Ricardo could play there as well if you needed him to. It's not an issue for me. I'll move him on.
We've got, just touching on Ricardo there before we finish up, we have got quite a few players now who can play at least 2, maybe 3 positions, Simon. So I think that will come into play. We'll quite often, I think, see team sheets and squads where we're going, oh, right, we've got James Justin is playing, left midfield or something today, and Ricardo's at fullback. I think that will ebb and flow this season. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's going to be one of those up and down seasons. We might have a good result, then we're going to have maybe 1 or 2 that aren't so good, and there will be a bit of chopping and changing. Cooper's got form for mixing things up, formation selection wise, in the past as well, so it's normal. I think other players like Hamza Chowdhury, for example, who's a good solid squad player. We've got more than enough to cover and to chop and change in positions. It just boils back to this attacking threat, Phil, for me, that we just desperately need some new blood in.
Yeah, and I feel we need is, I'd like to see us make a signing where you go, they're a shoo-in to be a starter, because I look at some of the players we've signed. I don't see Bobby Reid as necessarily a starter every week in. This Okele, the centre back, again, I don't think he'll be a starter. Maybe I'm wrong with that, Simon, but have we signed anybody as yet who you go, they're definitely, when we signed Winks, you go, he's going to start. I thought the same with Cody, but have we signed anybody yet where you go, yeah, they're definitely in that first 11 if they're fit at the moment?
Of all of them so far that I've seen, I'd give Okele the best chance of that. I think he gets better every game he plays for us, albeit I know they're friendlies. The rest of them are squad depth players. They're not starting players for me. That young lad that came from Chelsea Golden, he looks a good season or 2 short of being ready for top level senior football, in my opinion, from what I've seen of him so far. So, yeah, I'm not saying we've not signed some good players for the future or to help out if players get injured, but yeah, I agree with you, Phil. We've not signed anyone, and you think, yeah, that's just improved our first team. I've not seen that yet.
Yeah, no, I think that's a slight worry, but there's still plenty of time, and obviously the transfer window is open till the end of August. So I always think get your business done to give them a chance to, like you say, bed in, do the pre-season, get to know where the training ground is, etc., etc. But it can go on right till the end. So Simon, listen, thanks so much for joining us tonight. It's been great to get your views.
Cheers, Phil. Nice to see you again, mate. Take care.
Thanks, Simon. We'll let Simon go. Thank you so much, Simon. Always great to get his views. He's very good at the analysis of it. Oh, God, I can't even say the word analysis. But let's get the last couple of comments in from you. Carol says, if we don't get any more, it's going to be relegation in there. Andy says, Connor Cody as captain. Again, that's a good debate to have. Who should be captain? John Tower says, we'll be stretching around. Yeah, stretching around deadline day as usual. Adrian Silva, 14 seconds too late. It's Leicester. We've had 4 months to sort it and still be late to the game in there. So many players in the squad that we never play. How can that be good business, says Craig. Andy says Soumare and Daka both need to be moved on. Thanks as ever to getting all your views and comments in. I just wanted to briefly let you know we have started another channel. Well, it's the same channel. We've just moved on to a platform as well called Patreon. So if you want to come and check out what's going on over there, it's going to be a little bit extra content than what we do here. We'll keep doing all the usual content just the same, so don't panic, but we're going to be doing some extra stuff, a little bit behind the scenes, who knows what on that. So if you do want to come over, check it out on Patreon and see what you think. let us know what your comments are. We've got lots of things to do on there. We've actually got a signed Harry Winks shirt to give away. So if you want to come over there, come and check it out and have a look at that. And we'll see how that goes over the next few weeks. But listen, from me, Phil, I'll see you next Monday, where we'll only have 7 more sleeps till the season kicks off. Don't forget, Locks is live this Thursday at 6:30. And of course, Jamie from the Foxes Arms is live. If you do want to go and have a look at Patreon, I've just popped it in the comments link, so you can click on that link and go and have a little look. And it just helps us grow as a fanzine. So if you want to come and support us, that would be brilliant. But no worries, if not, everything stays the same on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, the lot. So it all does the same. We'll see you very, very soon. Thanks for watching. Cheers.
The Leicester City machine is on the march again.
Leicester Fan TV presents a variety of content like fan discussions, match analysis, and engaging with Leicester fans worldwide. We want your views live, thanks to our sponsors, Everard's, Pucker Pies, Hologram, Take Me, Newbie & Co, and the Foxes Arms. For exclusive extra shows, behind the scenes, competitions and podcasts, subscribe to Leicester Fan TV today on Patreon.